Hi, Professor Maculan.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Great to see you.
Thank you.
So today my guest is Nelson Maculan. He's an Emeritus Professor at the Universidade Federal do Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, where he was also a rector. He's a full member of several academies, such as the Brazilian Academy of Sciences, the National Academy of Engineering, the European Academy of Arts, Sciences and Humanities, and the Academy of Sciences for the Developing World. Professor Maculan served as a National Secretary of Higher Education of Brazil between 2004 and 2006, and he was also the president of many societies such as IFORS, ALIO and SOBRAPO. He received many honors and awards throughout his career, including several honorary doctoral degrees from different universities in Brazil, Peru, and France. In 2006, he received the French National Order of Merit, and in 2007, he received the Grand Cross for Scientific Merit, which is the most important medal for scientific acknowledgement awarded by the President of Brazil. In 2010, he received the Prêmio Mérito Científico awarded by the Brazilian Computing Society in acknowledgement for the scientific contributions in computer science. In 2013, he received the Premio Konex Mercosur in Argentina. In 2020, he became both IFORS and INFORMS Fellow. Professor Maculan has published or edited many books and has published around 150 journal papers. By the way, I'm proud to be one of his co-authors. He has supervised around 75 Ph.D. theses, including those of my master's advisor, Lucidio Cabral, and my Ph.D. advisor, Luis Saturuotti. And he also supervised 159 master's dissertations. He was a visiting professor in many countries around the globe, such as France, Italy, Peru, Argentina, Ecuador, United States, Canada, and China. Professor Maculan is the current co-editor-in-chief of RAIRO-Operations Research and serves as associate editor of other international journals. Professor Maculan, you are a living legend and certainly one of the most important scientists in Brazilian history. So I thank you so much for promptly accepting the invitation. It's such an honor. How are you? Tudo bem?
Thank you very much. I have to thank you because it's first time I have to give a talk, a interview about my career. I think it's important for me, and I think it's important for people who would like to know me and my work.
Right.
Okay. Thank you very much for your invitation.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure, my pleasure. You have a strong connection with Rio de Janeiro, but you were actually born in the state of Paraná, correct?
South Brazil, yes, in 1943, of course, in Londrina. And in that time, my father moved to Londrina in 1937, I think so. And Londrina was a little town, and today this city has something like 600,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
It's the middle city in Brazil, in the sense of Brazil. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And now you have a university there, have a lot of things. I mean, in my time, very few things to do. Just the school, the elementary school, and not the high school. Just the little ones, the high school.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right. You have an interesting family background. Your father was even a senator.
Yes, my father was not born in Paraná. Was born in the state of São Paulo, and his family moved to Vitória, Espírito Santo, and he moved again to Rio de Janeiro, where he got married, and he went to Londrina to start his life, and he started his life for professional life there. Okay, and then in Londrina he worked for people working in coffee. And so it's in that time, Londrina was very important for the plantation of coffee, the production of coffee. And he was a very specialist in coffee. And all his work associated with the political is associated with the agricultural.
Right.
Okay.
Right. You had many important influences when growing up, right? You had nice teachers in school.
Exactly. We call middle school, I think so. When I was 11 years old to 15 years old, for 4 years, I have very nice, very interesting teachers. Professor Couto was born in Goa, but he studied in Oxford, was professor in English, Latin, mathematics, and Portuguese. Incredible. And I liked him very much because he opened my eyes for a lot of things, other things, not just for mathematics or languages, but even the words. Because he had a very nice experience, life experience.
Right.
And he opened my eyes to study, to do something different.
So an Indian guy influenced you.
Exactly.
Incidentally, my great uncle, the uncle of my mom, was the governor of Goa. This was a long time ago. You also had another teacher, Portuguese teacher, that was also very important to you.
Is that Professor Almo Saturnino, very interesting guy. Even the professor of French, Anne-Marie, she was from Switzerland. Okay, and for years they are very close to these professors in the sense they are very rigorous, all the three, but very friendly in the sense you have to work, you have to see the world and so on. It was very important for us, in this community, very small city, starting most of our parents are completely. He could not really read. People from Japan, people from Lebanon, people from Germany. The first immigrate in Brazil are very poor, and really they could not read their own language.
Yeah.
Then to learn the Portuguese not easy. Or to learn anything.
Sure.
Then it was very important to have very good professors who understand what they can to do with our colleagues and so on. It was really incredible.
You study many languages when you're young.
But in that time it was mandatory in Brazil. I studied 6 years French, 5 years English, 2 years Spanish, 4 years Latin. Okay, and when I was in university, I had 1 year Germany course in 1 year. Okay, and I studied Italian and so on.
Wow, that's
I used to write in 5 languages.
Wow, okay. It's very, very impressive. And you moved to Rio at the age of 15 to start your high school, correct?
Yes, to finish my high school
and
to prepare the exams to go to the university for the School of Engineering. And I had very good professors from French who used it to prepare the students to have to the high school, not high school, the grandes écoles in French, Polytechnique and so on, mine engineering and so on.
Yeah, and you live with your grandmother in Copacabana, right? And you went to the beach only on Sundays because you spent the entire week actually studying hard.
Yes, I have no choice. In that time it's not easy to go to the university. Very, very few positions as students, you see, and the exams very, very difficult. All of them have more than 20 people by one place and so on.
Yeah, it's very competitive, right?
Competitive. You have to study hard and so on to prepare. They like the French system at that time, or Italian, or European system in the sense. Different way.
You had contact with people from other countries in Rio, right? Especially Eastern European countries.
Exactly. People from Poland who gave me another kind of. That's me also kind of to see the world. Because Latin America normally have some ideas about Portugal, Spanish, United States, but not exactly how people used to live in European countries. Fortunately, Professor Couto from India, from England, he gave me a lot of things, but different way. Okay, and I could see my colleagues from whose parents are from Poland, Romania, and so on. You see, and another kind of ideas, the attention about the culture, music, and so on. Because it's very important. You know better than I. In that time, Brazil, cultural, just in Rio de Janeiro or São Paulo, but people from the interior of Brazil, like me, no contact with the really good culture and so on. Theatrines. Okay.
Yeah. And you got admitted in a university in Ouro Preto in 1961 to study mining and metallurgical engineering.
Yes, it's a city not far from Belo Horizonte, which is the capital of the state of Minas Gerais.
Again, you had very good professors, some of them with masters in the US and so on, for basic courses especially.
The first thing is very important because they are full-time professors. In that time, all the school of engineering, law, medicine, and so on, you have no professor full-time, work in university, doing research. See? I remember they lived to teach and go away. In Ouro Preto have 8% of professors full-time. That's good. They lived there. We can work with them afternoon and so on, even the night. Okay, they're very important for us. My school was open till 1 a.m. in the morning. Very few places in Brazil could study even Saturday, Sunday. Normally, people used to close the library. At that time, we have no computer, no fax, nothing. Just books. You have to read the books and so on, and to write, to copy all the things. It's very important to have a very good library where you can work. That's interesting.
You also decided to leave Rio to be more independent from your parents.
Exactly. That's the most important because for 2 years I lived alone with my grandmother and so on. My grandmother and one great-grandmother, both. And when my parents moved to Rio de Janeiro, I moved to Ouro Preto to keep my liberty in a sense. I arrived at the university. I was 17 years old, almost 18 years old. I'd like to have my life, to keep myself, and so that's important. I think in Brazil, people at that time used to stay at the home with the parents. So on. I try to do different things.
Yeah, you got involved with the students' union there in Ouro Preto.
In that time, it was very difficult because I have the dictatorship in Brazil, and I used to be very, very close to the left people, working left ideas and so on. You see, we had problems with this dictatorship. Okay.
Yeah, you got arrested after the coup d'état, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not a good experience, but I was there. At that time, it was different, these things, okay? I spent 4 months out of Ouro Preto, okay? And then I came back, I studied. Not easy because you lost 4 months, it's a number of things. But I have a good base in mathematics, physics, and so on, that I could study other things.
Yeah, so
okay, my grade is not very well because I got 0 all the 4 months, a lot of things, okay? And then to get, in Brazil, it's 0 to 10. 10 is maximum A+, something like that. And you need 5 to 7 to 7, you can go direct, but I could not have 7 because I finished a lot of 0. Then I could get 5, 6, and you have the orals, exams, and so on.
Yeah, so you were able to recover, you worked hard.
I recovered all things, yeah. I was a good student, all the 4th place in the classification. Okay.
Wow.
Not the first one, but it was the 4th. Some things I don't like to study. Okay, I don't like some things. I don't just have the minimal to pass.
So you had this very interesting period in Ouro Preto, but at some point you moved back to Rio in 1966. You originally intended to start your master's at Universidade Federal do Rio de Janeiro, UFRJ. But unfortunately, things became difficult.
Continue in Brazil, exactly.
Right.
Then I chose to leave Brazil, and I could be invited to study in France, graduate studies in France. I think to study something like associated with the state physics. But finally, I studied probability, statistics, okay, and the operational research, optimization, and I learned a lot and I studied and I worked in computer science that time because I have no class in computer science.
Yeah, actually, it was not that easy for you to find a position there. You had a friend who helped you, right, to get the position as master's student in Paris, and you had a scholarship of roughly $100.
Exactly, but it's all the people had the same thing at the time. See, you could live. A big problem is to buy books, very expensive books. Even it's incredible. Today you have this kind of library, or even university you can take books. You can even buy all the books and so on. That time I have no older books, very few. You have to. It's almost impossible to buy books. That's the reason. With $100, each book is something like that, $50 and so on.
You had to sell your car to buy the airline ticket.
My ticket, to go to France. At that time, it's very expensive to take the airplane or all the ship and so on things.
And you attended a particular event there, the Ph.D. defense of Professor Balas.
Exactly. I was students, and my professor, which used to teach mathematical programming, applied things, and he used to invite the people, and then he invited us to follow the Balas defenses thesis, see, in 1966. And I did not know who was the guy. Well, interesting, they're doing, but for me, you are just working your master's degree, something like that. You don't know exactly it's good or not. But I met him there, and as you see later, I met him again in Brazil, 1976, 10 years later. It's incredible. He called me and so on.
You'll get back to that later.
But Professor Abadi used to invite people from Stanford, like Cotto, Dancy, other people, I don't remember all them. Okay? And I could, even people from Russia, like Linik, and etc. That's very interesting for the students to have this kind of contact. In that time, it's not easy, even for European countries, to see people from the United States and Russia or Canada and so on. Okay, and it was really interesting because Professor Abadi is not really a professor. He was an engineer at the electrical power company, state company in France, see, EDF. But he's very open to he was invited professor in Stanford. In the sense of he was even president of Mathematical Programming Society.
Wow.
He was not a professor, but he knew a different way. But he has good in research, and good professor, and it's very interesting.
You had
for the devices, I think so.
Yeah, you had classes with Claude Berge.
Yes, Claude Berge. I have class Claude Berge avec Laurent Schwartz in analysis. I have Bernard Roy, you see, the other people, very important at that time.
Yeah, I think Professor Schwartz even won the Fields Medal. Am I right?
Yes, he was Fields at that time. He was very young at that time.
Yeah.
He got it with this medal 2 or 3 years before I arrived in France, I think so.
Yeah, but in addition to studying, you also got involved with the theater group, and you learned many things.
That's very, very important. See, in France, we have a GTA, this association of the Théâtre Antique, and we work very hard because interest is not just to play, but choose how to prepare all the things, and you have to read. I remember we were very interested because we choose a piece from the 14th century, I think so. It is called the Robert the Evil, Robert le Diable. With all the French, you have to prepare all the theater. You have to put 50 people in the show. See, to present 50 people. It's not easy task.
Right. Yeah.
All the students. From history, mathematics, and so on. And you are more not really professional. We have some professionals with us, but 90% are just students, But it was very important to know people, to know the university, to open your minds to. I think it's very important if you're a professor or such a guy, open the minds, offer to your students to see other things than you are doing.
Definitely, absolutely. I totally agree with you. I think this experience helped you in improving your cultural background, which was already great, but being exposed to these different activities also, it enriches your background, and that's very important, especially when you become a professor and so on.
To be a professor is very important.
Yeah. You finished your master's around 1967, and the final exams were not that easy, right?
No, the system, the French system is not easy. They changed in '68, but before you have just 120 people, students, to get the exams. Just 11 got pass. Okay, there's very few of them. It's not easy. The French systems. The second question depends on the first one. The third one on the second. If you don't do the first one, don't do anything. Have a lot of zero.
Yeah.
But I learn. Okay, I don't do bad because you just do that. You have to study.
Mm-hmm. Yes. A year later, you met Professor Anne-Marie.
Yes, in 1968, when the manifestation about May 68, I met my wife. We still that time in '68 we still married, and we were together now more than 50 years now. Okay? And I have a colleague, a great friend, who had a girlfriend who were a friend of Anne-Marie friends, you see, and then we start to speak and so on. That starts like this. Mm-hmm. It's a political manifestation, of course. Yeah. A lot of students. It was really incredible. For me, it's almost a war.
Right. There was some repression during that manifestation.
I had to protect me because I am from foreign countries. Not easy.
Yeah. Soon after that, you also had experience writing computer codes. Tell me about that. That's a very interesting story.
Yeah, that's very nice because after the master, I spent 6 months in the School of Mines. The School of Mines had I think it has a labs in geostatistics. So in this, it's not in Paris. It's in Fontainebleau, and I had to get every day by bus and so on, by car. And in there I had a computer. And I remember the first use of computer in the scientific way, because Abadi gave me an idea. For him, linear programming is not important. It's very easy. He gave me it's incredible. I started branch and bound programming a quadratic 01 branch and bound. The functions are quadratic and the constants are linear. It's not easy in that time because the dual is not easy to find and so on. It's not easy to cut. But I developed some things at that time. I would like to start with linear programming, linear integer programming, but no linear integer programming. Mm-hmm. No, I do that. But it's incredible because for him, linear programming is not important things. No, linear is more important. Linear is just a special case. Very easy in that time. No, the idea of combinatorial, some people did not have that time.
Yeah, and writing codes should have been quite of a challenge because not only working with punch cards and all of that, but very little direct access to memory compared to
exactly. You have to use magnetic tapes, drums, enormous without very thin things. Okay, and all the memory with direct access is very small. Then it's not. You have to work in. Of course, you work in Fortran at that time, and the assembler. Assembler was very important for us. If you did not program assembler, you could do anything.
Exactly.
Then you have to learn even the hardware and the software. You have to know the hardware. To use a plotter, you have to adapt. It's not easy. It's really something like automobile control.
Right.
And then you have to read, because sometimes for instance, the computer is UNIVAC. This plotter was another Mac, exactly, and the system are not very well. Then you have to know both assemblers, to put together the things. The clock, people don't know what's in clock. That's incredible. No? You have to know really computer science, electronics, and so on, logic, and now you have not the idea of standard things. The number of bytes or bits are completely different from each. You have a CDC, IBM, Bull. You have the UNIVAC. You have even I remember that time you have, for example, Olivetti, Italian, Siemens. I think you have a computer, even the Russian machine at that time, because it's not large concentration some countries like today. It was different way. You have different architecture of computer.
Wow. And
that's I learned a lot, because after that I started to work in big company. After getting married, I got a job, very interesting job, in computer science. Use a computer, but to do a lot of things. The administration with a computer, mathematics, apply mathematics with a computer, calculus, everything. At that time you have to do everything. You say, no, you are a specialist in computer science. Not true, you are learning. Learn the machine to understand. And I remember this UNIVAC 1108, the cost of this machine was $3 million in that time.
Wow.
In France, we have just 4 machines like that, computer science, like that. Okay. Very few. Yes, one CDC, 2 UNIVAC, another, but the larger machines, very few at that time.
Yeah.
Of course, the nuclear center, very large IBM and so on, and in different ways. And I learned a lot. Really, I learned, because you are a pioneer in that sense.
Right. You had to code things from scratch because there were no ready-made libraries.
To learn the Fortran, Algol, COBOL, etc., and not structural language. Have no computer like today, not iteration. I used to work with. We started the data with punch cards, but some machine you have punch tape. That's because it's continuous. It's kind of have an error, have to change everything, and to have to close with the scotch and so on. I have to read like that. And they start. It was the first terminal to work a distance terminal, like time sharing and so on. Okay? But very few members to do. We did a very incredible. I remember we developed a system for tourism, to get the ticket, to take the hotel, and for all. You can do everything. It's just nice. But the big problem was because it was time sharing. How to control 10 or 12 different terminals? How to control, because they have very few conditions to avoid the same operation doing the same time, and everything crash.
Right. Concurrence.
I have no idea. It's not easy. The clock could not observe this. Not today. Today is different. It's almost impossible to do that. You can open all work together and so on.
Yeah.
That's very difficult, because the first level is very difficult.
Yeah. Right. After this adventure in France, you decided to come back to Brazil. Why?
My wife would like. I was very well in France, but she did. I'd like to know your country, but it's dictatorship there. No, then I could come back in Brazil in 1971 with a son, Julian. Now he's 51 years. He's in the United States now. And I remember I arrived there. I tried to find some job, but I could all the public societies, I could not work. My old professor, Coimbra, from the Graduate School of Engineering, called COPE at Federal University of Janeiro, invited me to become professor there. because I have some experience in system engineering and computer science.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I was received by the chair of this computer science department, and the guy, this professor, received me, but he did not look at me. Huh? I don't like people who study in France. We close the door. I have some problem with different France. I don't know. Okay. Then I started with production engineering.
Oh.
To teach discrete simulation, linear programming, nonlinear programming, operation research, and so on.
Yeah.
Graph theory. And 1 year and a half later, I became the head of the department, system computer science department. The students changed, and I stayed. So from 73 to today, this department. At the same time, the department of applied mathematics in the Institute of Mathematics. I have worked in the Institute of Mathematics and the Graduate School of Engineering from 71 to now.
Yeah. Tell me about the Maculan Cholesky story, please.
And that's very nice. When I arrived in my university in Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, I have an old colleague, very interesting. He said, I have two students who have some problems with the AX equal B, that's linear systems of equations, algebraical systems to solve, and so on. And two students arrived and have some problem. He tried to solve with direct algorithm, you see, a symmetric matrix, same definitely positive and so on. But he could not, because the error is very large. And then I showed them the Cholesky method. I programmed and so on. And he was very nice. He was always crying out, okay? And their professor, my friend, said, what about now? Oh, it's incredible. He's Professor Maculan Cholesky gave me a very nice algorithm. Okay. Or something like this. That's nice because they did not understand Cholesky was just the name of the guy, not me. The professor. That's nice because sometimes like this, perhaps I did not explain very well. I just wrote direct because it was in my life. I used to do that for all the time, All the bandwidth I used to work too. Then in that time, a math 200 to 200 is enormous. Today, 1 billion for 1 billion, you have to solve.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Large sparse matrix.
Right. You were one of the first to introduce interprogramming in Brazil. You told that was around August 1971. There was a presentation on branch and ball methods at Petrobras. Exactly.
Because it's interesting because Roberto Gomes da Costa was the head of the Department of Operations Research of Petrobras at that time, our oil state company in Brazil. And he knew sometimes, like I studied these things in France. And he asked me to give a talk about. Then I presented my problem. I solved the linear program very easy because I used to work in these things. And I gave him the idea and so on. I have a lot of people. I think I was the first one in Rio, perhaps in São Paulo, someone, because I saw people at Polytechnical School of São Paulo, perhaps. But I'm not sure. Perhaps the idea of grammar cuts, yes, but not branching about. We know about all the ideas, branching bounds, branching prune, or enumerations, list enumerations, so on.
Yeah, but definitely you were one of the pioneers. One of the first to bring all these things and to show.
Interlinear programming, yes, mixed interlinear programming, even for the project and so on. I remember I used to help people to do that things, to use even the MPS code or all the other blocks. In that time, I remember people used to pay $600 for the license by month.
Wow!
To use this. This for us is almost impossible.
Yeah.
I used the Petrobras to do my research during that time.
Yeah.
I used to solve their problems and solve my problems too. Because people think if you develop a software, sometimes small one. You cannot. That time it's not easy to follow. Big one is not easy. Today have a lot of memory. You know, today everything that has to be friendly.
Mm-hmm.
You have an error. At that time it's not easy. You have it finished. You change O by 0, finish. It started finish. We don't know why.
Yeah.
You ever think you have a listing with everything in that depends in base 8 or base 16 and so on, you see, to understand, because all the base are 8 or 16, A, B, C, and because you have introduced after 9 you put A, B, C,
Mm-hmm.
D.
Yeah, very, very hard. You have to be very precise. You also published a book in 1978 on integer programming, one of the first, if not the first book.
I think in Brazil first book,
Yeah.
if Latin America.
Wow.
Because it was my class, you know, because I was I think one of the first one to give normally this kind for master degree in production engineering and system engineering computer science.
Mm-hmm.
In that time, we did not use to call combinatorial optimization, not yet.
Mm-hmm.
Combinatorial optimization was introduced for us in 1976 by Egon Balas.
Ah. Nice.
He used to call, but it's same thing. Yes, but now people used to change the name. You think you know very well.
Yeah.
If you see today, they say data science, all the things. You know these things.
Yeah,
They put a different way, but you know, if you have statistician, you have mathematician, computer science, you know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But you put that like a black box, and people, I have it. Okay, deep learn.
Yeah. You got a position as assistant professor in 1973 at the mathematics department. You also became president of SOBRAPO in 1974. And you moved to the exclusive dedication regime. We call it here dedicação exclusiva. And you had to prove that your ongoing research was original.
Exactly. Then I said, this is a completely crazy question. How can I? I said, my answer. I visited all the library in my university. I did not find anything equal that. Then this I proved. And the guy was not very happy with my
Yeah, no.
They changed this question now. Okay?
You got your doctoral degree in production engineering in 1975. Your work was operations research, column generation in integer programming.
Yeah.
And in 1976, you had a very special visitor, and what is an unexpected contact.
Exactly, because this Professor Egon Balas had a cousin, I think so, in São Paulo. And one of his PhD students from Mexico knew me, I think so, in France and so on, and gave him my address, my contact. And he went to Rio de Janeiro, and he called me. That is in 1976, exactly, I think in July or June, perhaps, to say. And we started long friendship, because he invited me, and then I worked with him, and thanks him, I got invitation to present a talk at the mathematical programming, International Mathematical Symposium in Budapest, 1976, I think in August. And it was incredible for me to give it, invite talk in this. Remember, this talk was associated with the PhD thesis of Rui Campelo, my students, and no, his master degrees. Mm-hmm. His expansion of something like associated with my PhD doctoral degrees, but different way. And you have a lot of people following in this my conference and so on. 40 minutes, not 20 minutes.
Oh yeah.
Almost 1 hour.
It's like a talk. I mean, almost like a
talk, exactly. 45 then questions and so on.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of questions. Impressive. We were doing that in Brazil. Yes, we're doing that in Brazil. You know, at that time Brazil for the world is very, 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 very far from, I think so. And he was really because you know, people don't know today. In that time, when we studied abroad, you studied France, Brazil, you came back to your country. What happened? The contact is very difficult. You have to write letters. In that time, have no phone is impossible. It's very expensive to call someone. See, you have letters and so on, and have no fax, Nothing. Really, then to have a contact with the people to answer your question, it's not easy, even to publish.
Mm-hmm.
But Balas was really, he gave me a lot of things. He helped me for all the presentation, communication letters, or recommendation letters. And I remember Egon Balas gave me a lot. He was very knowledgeable in that time because he was an important professor. And very important, this ISMP in 1976 in Budapest. I met a Korbut. For me, it was for Russia, for the Soviet Union, was a very nice guy in inter-programming. And I could talk a lot about him, very interesting. Even the Nobel Prize, Economy Nobel Prize in
Kantorovich
was there. I could meet people very interesting at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Even Pierre Hansen became my friend, De Vera, Michel Mindou, and so on.
I think also Professor George Danzig, Rolf Gomery.
Exactly, George Danzig.
Zions too, I think.
Zions is my colleague. Zions I used to write to him now. He's my friend and so. And it's incredible, really.
So it was really important for you.
Jack Adams.
Wow, Jack Adams, yeah.
I think he was Buffalo Bill. He has a hair like that. And so
very
on.
stylish. Mm-hmm.
Really, I said, this Buffalo Bill. That tall guy, almost 2 meters. I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is certainly an important moment in your life. And that this
for my research, yeah.
Yeah, right. Also, you invited Professor Balas in that same year to be a visiting professor. You arranged him an apartment and a car, right?
Exactly. I invited him, in 1976. After that, he spent 2 months with us, and I have very good students who work with him. Geraldo Veiga, other people, I remember, and he gave a very nice class and the new things about the disjunctive programming, his dada. And it's really, really good one. And the problem, because we bought a car for him, you see, and he drove like the Brazilian guys. I was started. And for us, it's a very good one because he opened the position for Rui Campelo, other people who even Cid and so on. He received a lot of Brazilian people as postdoc in Carnegie Mellon.
Mm-hmm.
For us, it was very important postdoc in that time. Of course, people who got PhD abroad, okay, but when you got your PhD in your country, you know very well. It's good to go abroad to see. Today is different because we can have a lot of doctor program, good one in Brazil, can move and so on. At that time, very few.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go abroad, to go France, England, Canada, and so on. So, he used to receive my PhD students.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's very good for me.
Yeah, I completely understand. Yeah. Also, later you also made a very important contribution, yet another important contribution, with the help of your wife. So, Professor Anne-Marie, she translated the original paper that was written in Russian, right, proving that a linear programming could be solved in polynomial time. And you translated that. I mean, with her help, you communicated that to the Brazilian community.
Exactly, I communicated that, and I published even in mathematics, also the Brazilian Mathematical Society. They had a kind of, a journal for diffusion ideas. Mm. And it was really, because I was the first one to explain in Brazil the ellipsoid methods, in a sense, okay? The Katcha ellipsoid methods. And I remember when Chivato went to Brazil, he read my paper in Portuguese, because, he is this kind of, Chivato used to read everything. Mm-hmm. And he was presenting something, I think, in University of Campinas. I said, you just read the paper, read it by Nelson. Read it by Nelson better than my conference here. It is in Portuguese. Mm-hmm. Yes, because it's not the paper, just, the Russian paper written by
Gotcha.
Gotcha. You have just 4 pages. Everything is immediately. Prove immediately. Prove that's not it. Okay? But I could understand, it's very nice, the idea. It's an old idea, it's incredible. How people did not say it. But some things like that, he was there. He was PhD student at that time. He was in Brazil in 2006 for ISMP. And he was dead 2 years later, I think so. Very young.
Yeah, I know. So after co-founding ALIO in 1982, you went to Montreal, and also that was a very important period in your career, especially research-wise in Canada.
Exactly. It was my first time where I left Rio for a long time. Okay, I spent 2 years like visiting professor at Université de Montréal, department of computer science and operations research. But it was the first time I could read Département d'informatique et recherche opérationnelle. You see, because people used to do research operations research in production engineering, mechanical engineering, mathematics, economics, but I think Stanford have a department of operations research. I think so. Montreal is the same thing. Because normally operations research was really science in the sense of general science. Even today, you can study mathematics, computer science, production engineering, computer science, all everywhere, electronic engineering, economics, and so on. And
even business.
Business, of course, management science.
Yep.
It's a kind of business. And it is very interesting for me because I understand it was important to publish. In that time, you write a letter, you write your thesis, and it's finished. You write a thesis, okay, you're a professor, doctor. You used to teach a lot and so on, to have some ideas, but you have to create a means or local or such, in sense you can form a people to work together to create
an
environments of research. Because I used to say research is the most important thing in university. If you do not have research, it's not university for all. It's really, people have to, you have to do just, okay, you can teach sometimes. Very few professors teach, I think so, are scholars, good scholars. Of course, you have someone who has studied, having very large experience, and so on. Most of them used to teach the same thing for years, in the same way, the same example.
Right. Yeah. But that was very important. The period you spent in Montreal, it was a great scientific leap in your career. And
I changed my sense completely.
Yeah, that's very important. You came back to Rio in 1984, and you became the first person in the field of computer science to receive the highest research fellowship of what we call CNPq. Yeah. You became so-called pesquisador 1A.
Yeah.
Right.
I still 1A to now.
Yeah. And in 1985, you organized together with other important figures, Rui Campelo too. Yes. The Combinatorial Optimization School in Rio. And there were many important names such as Peter Hammer, Silvano Martello, Paulo Todd, Renoy Kahn, Pierre Hansen, Michel Minut, Gilbert Laporte, Gerhard Fink, and so on and so forth.
And so on.
Yeah.
And all them paid their tickets, not me.
Wow.
I just paid hotel. I work hard.
And to convince them, it's worth.
Yes, it's incredible. The Canadian people, the European people, Japanese people, they don't care to pay. But the American people is not easy. My experience of the American people is you have to pay your ticket and you have to pay their ticket with Brazil. Otherwise, it's not easy. Of course, you can get a job there. It's different. But to be invited to the United States, and they never paid you the things.
Yeah.
Not easy for us,
Yeah.
even today.
Absolutely. Yeah. At some point,
You
you invited many other people.
Yes, you can go in Portugal, they invite you Spanish, French, Russian, Italy, and so on. Japan, China, and vice versa. We invited them. In the United States, you have just one by one. You pay both.
You also invited other important names during the 70s and even 80s, including, for example, Professor George Danzig.
Yes, he's in Brazil, and we paid all things. But he had to know. Huh?
Yeah.
And well, okay, different things, but he's very important. Okay, but he could at least, I don't know. From I invite people in France. They pay all things. Very people who get the medal fields and so on.
Yeah.
Even though the prize.
Wow.
They pay them. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Because they know, it's used. You have money to do that. It's important for them to have. He got money. It's a different way of the support of research in European countries. He knows. Okay, I can pay that. What you can pay? Okay, it's much better for both sides. Because in that time it's not easy to buy dollars. If you remember, it's very expensive. How to send money is complicated. Then I used to pay with the Brazilian currency, not the dollars. When they arrived, very easy in the hotels and so on. Okay, I remember one of the year I invited 20 people, different people in other parts. Most of them are from Canada and the European countries. Sometimes from Japan.
Wow. Right. Yeah. You co-founded the Department of Applied Mathematics and became the department chair for a couple of years.
First one, yeah.
You got your habilitation from Paris Dauphine also at that time during the 80s. You became director of COP. COP is a graduate or postgraduate school, if you will, of UFRJ, very famous in 1990. And you reached the highest position to be rector president of UFRJ for 4 years. And you traveled to Brasilia every Wednesday and gave classes every Friday.
Exactly. But it's very important to keep the contact with the students, I say. Most of the presidents of university in Brazil, after their term, they used to do other things, not academic, political things, administrative. I understand but I used to work very hard for administrative side and change things. Not easy, My university is a very large one. We have 8 hospitals, medical school, lectures, law school, music school, very interesting one. And it's really a city.
Yeah.
Number of students and so on. I work very hard to do the same, both things.
Yeah, to improve research too. You also did a lot.
I think, fortunately, I don't sleep very much. I use 5 hours by night. And I could work. Otherwise, if you stay just working, even Brasilia or university and so on, it's a full time. But you have to get your time to get your mind, to keep your mind. I was young. I remember I was 50 years old. I was 49 years old when they started to be president of the university. 48, I think so.
You were the youngest at the time, right?
One of the younger. My university, yes.
Yeah.
Today, I think, I don't know. But in my time, I was the first one to be less than 50 years old.
A rector.
And the president for 4 years, term of 4 years, fortunately. And when I finished, I stayed 2 or 3 months in Rio, and I went to UMass, University of Massachusetts, at Amherst, and I worked for 9 months there. And there I started to study about my problem I like very much is this Euclidean-Steiner problem, 3 problems. And it's very difficult one to be modeled. by nonlinear programming and so much. But we improved in 20 years.
Yeah, we'll get back to your research work in a while. With your experience as a rector of UFRJ, I'm sure you've done a lot for the university, and you've been invited to be National Secretary of Higher Education of Brazil between 2004 and 2006. That's remarkable. And tell me how was the experience? And
it was very important. I was working with Lula, was president of Brazil the first term, and I spent 3 years in Brasilia, and we created 10 new universities and 60 new campi.
Wow.
And now in capitals. Our idea is to work in the interior, the small cities and so on, because education is for all the people, not for people who can pay. I fight for the public school, no paid, okay, free, and for all. Of course, you have to study, to enter, you have to study, and so on, and for all communities. If you can change your country, you have to do education the same condition for all the people. That's very important. Otherwise, you cannot do that. When you came here in France, for instance, you can see all the people who came from Africa. They studied. They are very important. You have the number of people. In Brazil, you have these people who arrived from Africa from 500 years now, or 400 years ago. It's not easy for them. They are very difficult to study. They have difficult to have conditions. And you open very well our universities with the same thing like the American people, for the black people, for the poor people, because it's public. You have to open. And the result is very good one. All the people who criticize me now recognize we are sure. Because they know about the Emeritus, but that's the point Emeritus. You have, my house you have books. Huh? Your parents have doctorate degrees, are professor, are middle class, can read. Mm-hmm. If your parents cannot read, how can you do that? Have no books at home. That people cannot understand. It's not semi-candidate. My father, he finished the high school, and my mother, no.
Oh.
In my family, I was the first one, all my family, my cousins, it was 35 candidates, and I was the first one to finish the university.
Wow.
Now I have all the names, but at that time, I'm not the oldest, but I'm the fourth or fifth, I don't know. Among all the grandchildren of my family, both sides. Interesting. Huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. I have my uncles, I think just my father finished the high school. Mm-hmm. There are 8 brothers and the daughters, and the brothers and the sisters.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
3 brothers and 5 sisters, I think so.
That's absolutely a great achievement of being the National Secretary of Higher Education in Brazil.
So. The open university, created new class. We hired a lot of professors, young professors, doctor degrees. We really completed. We changed the idea of the public school in Brazil in a sense. Mm-hmm. Because in Brazil, as you know, very few private universities used to do the research. Mm-hmm. Research everywhere is the government who pays. United States, France, everywhere, even United States. The private university, they got a lot of money from the government. Municipal, government, state, government, the federal. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you cannot do research. Research is really, you have to pay, because if you don't, what to do? People say, it's very expensive to study. If you don't study, what do you create? Nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you like to call yourself as político da educação?
Yes, I like this. I political education. It seems I studied. I used to say I started because I started teaching in the graduate studies or postgraduate. I will finish in the garden school because it's interesting because I started with the master, Ph.D. and then undergraduate, and then high school, and then I don't know, middle school, and the elementary school. That's interesting. It's nice because you change your mind. You can go away. I think it's very important, the idea to try to understand. Not thinking like very much. I visited, I knew a lot of universities in different countries, but I want like how they finance the studies, how they work there, the organization, because we learn that. How they do that, because I like to teach, because I profess. Many professors, they prefer, to teach. You are a professor or not?
Right.
I remember I used to give 20 hours class by week.
Wow, that's quite a lot.
Two calculus, 12 hours by week, 6 by 6, and 2 master courses, that's 8.
Yeah. Wow, that's impressive. Yeah.
That's incredible, but I was young. I learned a lot. It's very important, for instance, if you give for the calculus 1 or 2, you can, the Brazilian system of called the scholarship of scientific initiation.
Yeah.
And you can invite the student with 17, 18 years to work with you.
Exactly.
And to put them in your labs.
Yeah.
With people with master PhD degrees, that's very important.
Precisely,
so,
yeah.
Because for the research in more theoretical think like us, is very important. Of course, most of people, it's normal. What we have a profession. What can do? What's better today? Is computer science? Is commercial? It is normal because you learn. You think you have to get a diploma to do something, to work, but not university. Incredible, not a research. The idea of research is something like it's very few of them like to do that.
Yeah.
But you have to convince them.
Yeah.
When you work in operations, combinatoric optimization, it's very difficult, it's combinatoric, so I don't like probability, and so on.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's very important. And then my best students, not best, but who work with me now, I met him in the calculus 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. It's nice.
Yeah. And you also organized in 2006 the ISMP, the first time that was held in Brazil.
Exactly.
Right.
I think in the third world, I was the first one in Brazil.
Yeah, you had the help of other professors, of course, right?
Of course, it was Abílio, Celso Ribeiro,
Professor Alfredo
Jussen,
yeah.
And even your PhD advisor, he helped me a lot with his students. Very good. And Fatima, who worked with me, was Maria Fatima, was incredible.
Your secretary, you mean, right?
Yeah. Secretary.
Yeah, and I think that's very important for that.
Maria Helena, also my professor of mathematics department, and so on. Because the open ceremony, I was in the opera house in Rio. Nice, very nice. I remember a very nice concert, popular music and the classical music. Because our opera house is a copy of the Austrian and French opera house. In a sense. The architect was the same group and so on. It's the same. It's the classical way of doing it. It's very nice. The Brazilian municipal is very nice.
Yeah, that event was absolutely very important for Brazil.
For us, for the people, it's very nice for us because you put together 150 people, 1,500 people.
Well, that's quite a lot. Yeah, it's very impressive.
And I was, fortunately, I was in Brasilia working in the higher education. We got money. Because it was holiday in Brazil, you see, no classroom between July and August, and then have no students, no undergraduate students. We can occupy all the campus close to the sugar loaf.
Yeah.
Yes, very nice. We call the Praia Vermelha.
Yeah. So, Professor Maculan, let's talk about your most important research contributions. What you consider as the most.
I think one of the contributions is the diffusion of a lot of thinking in Latin America. Because this contribution, in a sense, I think I was one of the first one to study combinatorial optimization, first one to study discrete simulation, how to develop software for optimization, how to solve AX equal B numerically. And I think it's very important, even because I had to work very hard. Mm-hmm. But I think I published things, interesting things in combinatorial optimization in the sense.
Steiner problems, especially.
Yeah, Steiner problems even in graphs, and even the Euclidean. You have to calculate the Euclidean distance. You see, the square root is not differentiable, and of course you have numerative methods, but it's very poor. All methods, like numerative or meta heuristics, it's interesting to have a lower bound if I minimize. A lower bound normally is associated with the formulation, mathematical formulation of the problem, in which you have the relaxation of the model. You have a model with 0 or 1, you put 0, all the interval between 0 and 1. That means you relaxation of your model. In this sense, you get easily, or more easy, by using linear programming or non-linear continuous one, you get a bound, is lower bound if you minimize. Mm-hmm. Sometimes this linear bound, you can cut to something else, can to be very good, and you can to see distance between your best solution you got by your enumeration, or even by meta risk or risk, and the lower bound. Okay, even today, if you see the software today, very large, they use you don't know really they got really the ultimate solution. Have a kind of difference because all the calculations have some errors and so on. The lower bounds are very important. And I think it's very important the first model, because the first model, how to write something, because what happened, the Euclidean Steiner tree problems. You have p points in n dimensions. Suppose there's 3 dimensions, okay, or 2 dimensions, okay. You'd like to span this means contact all this point. Using minimize the number of the lengths you use of cables or something like that. Okay, and this problem is incredible because you have no the position, you have the given position, but you have put other points. If you have p points, you can prove the max number of points in p minus 2. It's proved, etc. But you have no the position. The position, the point depends on the distance, the geometry of distance. Mm-hmm. Distance is Euclidean distance. Then it's not how to transfer. You don't know how many points and so on. How can I propose a model? I proposed in 1990, I think so. 94. I don't know. Perhaps no, 94. I was after my term as president. I was in UMass. Mm-hmm. In the United States, and I went to Montreal for 1 month to work with Michelin and so on. And one day I think about, okay, I have an idea. I have to put 0,1, of course. And so we have this kind of, have a product of a square root by variable 0,1 and the linear constraints. Mm-hmm. We changed that, okay? We changed that. Today have have a new model today. Mm-hmm. We can use a second order cone. You have a very nice program in the sense you can use the relaxation is solved by interior points. Mm-hmm. And then you got some results. The big difficulty we have is a lot of possible solution. If you suppose the p points are associated with the vertex of a polyhedron, mm-hmm. like the decahedron at 20. You have a lot of solutions. Then you cannot enumerate in the sense of simplicity, because you have a solution very close. You do not eliminate solutions. You have to eliminate a lot from them. And the bounds are very bad. Then we start to be better, but it's long work. Mm-hmm. We publish some papers and so on.
You also propose a very nice flow formulation for one Steiner-Perelman graphs, right?
Yeah, that's yes. Using, but it is very important. I used to do, one of the very difficult things when you work with the graph, given graph, to find a subgraph connected. How can you write that? Oh, because everything, you have very easy problem in the sense. I give you a graph, you put the length or weight associated with each edge, okay, for edge result. Okay? You'd like to find the spanning tree. That's very easy. It's interesting because that's a transloc idea, because if you have a complete graph, suppose you have a complete graph with p vertices, okay? The number of possible spanning tree is power p minus 2. It's enormous. But you can find the best solution in p squared. That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good, it's not a difficult one. But if I suppose I have a spanning tree, for which no vertex could have the degree greater than 4.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking for a cycle, elementary cycle, okay, minimum cost, with the P or K edges or
Mm-hmm.
same edge or vertex, same thing for the cycle.
Mm-hmm.
You see, this problem is not easy, because you have to get a subgraph connect for which other things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, other things is fine, but to be connected. And then we introduce the idea to use multi-flow.
Mm.
We put multi-flow, and you can compare your bounds, very good one for interprogramming, for associated to graphs. Okay, that's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And in the same time, you have two other colleagues, Beasley in England and Wong, I think so, United States. And you propose almost the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember that was in '93 in Montreal, with my colleague, Professor, he's dead now, Armin Klaus.
Mm-hmm.
He said, it's Santa Claus problem, he said. Poor Klaus. And he's interesting because he was from economy, but a very good idea. He does mathematicians also, but the idea to model is interesting, to do the model, new model eventually. Then I think that's the idea. If you work with other people, today I used to work with people from Iran, from India, from China. Incredible. I met people from other countries.
Uh-huh.
Because sometimes you are very close to the European, United States, and so on. But even Latin America, of course, I used to be kind of have I used from I think my PhD students. Most of them are not from Brazil. Chile, Argentina, Peru, Colombia, Mexico, Cuba, Canada, some other things. I have a student in Canada, United States, Brazil, France, Portugal, okay, China, in Argentina, a lot of them. Argentina, Chile, a lot of them.
Yeah.
I think that's very important for our students to have colleagues.
Right. Your legacy is outstanding. There are so many contributions in various areas, not only research, but also as a rector, as a National Secretary of Education, and so on. You're 78 years old now, and you are still working very hard.
I hope so.
Can you imagine your life outside academia, not connected with students and research?
Now I cannot. I'm not retired, and I think it's important for my mind to talk with you, young people. I learn a lot. Perhaps you don't know, but I learn with my students. Even some class, I like the correction of the copies of the exams. I learn a lot. Sometimes it's very hard to do, but sometimes you have to follow the idea for the students. Sometimes if you go direct to the result is not good, but the idea is Okay. I invite some students of when I graduate to write a paper with me, but they developed something different I did not see.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I have a lot. I have students with 100. In Italy, I was professor at Polytechnic Milano. I had 250 students. When I was a student here in Paris with Laurent Schwartz, 400 students. Brazil, they can't understand that, but it's nice, like that. Well, today is not more than that, perhaps 100, 150. My time I have a classroom with 400 people. I have people have television and so on. Okay? Laurent Schwartz used 8 blackboards.
Wow.
3 hours, no stop. Theorem. Everything by mind, never paper. I'm like that. I don't use a paper. I used to. Most important, okay, even the exams and so on.
Yeah, so I think it's very important for you to keep your mind busy and working.
Reading new things. Even today, I have a lot of things today. Correct things, As editor of journal, I learned a lot. I'm not our journal now is okay, but I don't like the guy just I refuse your paper. No, you have to see why. It will be very educative of the people. Some countries, people are first time to send a paper. You have the idea is good. You try to help with these people. I think it's very important. Some journalists that's concerned about. Of course, really they don't pay anything for us. Big problem because you work hard, but you don't need. It's your position to do that. I have to very open, ideas open. Sometimes that's concerned to the journals. Not true. Sometimes you are not known and don't think about. And with this, I think thanks to that, I have a lot of people I knew from Iran, from India, from Malaysia, China, and so on, to be open with this. Asia today has used to send 8% of our papers in our journal. Because they use it's mandatory for a lot of PhD students to get the PhD, publish a paper before to be published except for a journal, index journal. Then ours index. Then I think it's very important for them too. I don't like that. I think if you're important, I say they don't care if you publish or not. You publish, but you can get your PhD if professor is good when you want. That's something like the third world country. You have to see you are good, you have to publish your paper before. Sometimes impossible to publish a paper in 2 years. That depends on stuff.
Yeah.
I prefer because, of course, I have a team, a working team. Then you put your student in the paper. Okay, it's finished your problem. But for other people, it's not easy. Our colleague with more, it's not easy. You have in some universities, you have 2 or 3 people working this subject. You have no group.
Yeah.
Not PhD students to put another one together. Okay.
Right. Yeah, I think it's your trademark to care about people in general. I was not officially your student, though I worked with you. But there are just so many accounts of your former students telling how dedicated you are, how you always find time to talk to them. And
it's my job. I'm professor.
Yeah, and that's really remarkable. That's why you were a national hero, especially when you talk about the OR community. And we are very lucky to have you as an active researcher and a guy that is still working in university even though you're at the age of 78. Professor Maculan, for me it was amazing to have you here. It's a huge honor, as I said. I'm so happy that you found the time to have this wonderful conversation and to share such incredible stories. Thank you so much. I'd
like to thank you, Anna, because it's very important to talk with you, a young guy, working hard. It's doing very large, very nice work we're doing, because it's very nice to keep our history, your memory.
Yeah.
And now with the video, it's more important. We can put it everywhere, and so on. Thank you very much. And let's try to write a paper together.
Yeah, second one.
About the Steiner problem.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Euclidean one.
Right, okay then.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Muito obrigado, Professor Maculan. On behalf of the entire Brazilian art community, we owe you a lot. Thank you so much. It was wonderful. Bye. Tchau.
Muito obrigado. Eu vou jantar daqui a pouco. Tá, obrigado. Um abraço aos seus pais aí, tá?
Um abraço para o professor Marie e o pessoal todo aí. Até lá.
Tá bom. Obrigado, hein, filho.